Welcome, everyone. Once again, we are so excited for everyone that is joining us this morning or afternoon, wherever you are watching from. We are very excited to be able to be sharing with you this Global Read presentation or episode of our webinar series with the book Changemakers, 20 International Children's Peace Prize winners. This an amazing book collecting 20 stories and 20 narrations of 20 different Children's Peace Prize winners. We are very excited to be able to host the artist of the award, Inge, Ikink, but also all the authors, Marc, Julius, and Inge, who are here with us during this presentation. We are very grateful to have you all three here to participate in this conversation. And also, we are truly grateful for our facilitator, Joy Ngoma, who is here with us all the way from South Africa. So we are very excited to have her as well. And as a request, I was asked to please share the trailer of the book really quickly before we get into the conversation. So you can give me one more second here. And let's play it.
There is a superhero who lives in all of us.
In a world yearning for change, KidsRights celebrates 2 decades of young changemakers. Meet the remarkable individuals and groups honored as winners of the International Children's Peace Prize. Their inspiring stories now unfold in a Jubilee book.
We are normal. We are human beings.
In 2005, at the Nobel Peace Laureate Summit in Rome, we embarked on a transformative journey with the launch of the International Children's Peace Prize. Each year, under the guidance of Nobel Peace Prize winners, we honor a child change maker.
They have the right to go to school.
These young heroes embody the spirit of change.
Together and united, we are unstoppable.
This book features 20 stories, each spotlighting a different young hero who has transformed the world in their own unique way. The International Children's Peace Prize is recognized as the foremost global youth award.
We can and we will change the world.
Its winners' messages amplified by international media, touching millions worldwide each year. KidsRights presents Changemakers, 20 stories that change the world.
And with that, I leave the floor to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Felipe. That was incredible and a beautiful way to start this session, being inspired by these young people who have changed the world by being heroes and telling their stories and sharing their stories with the global community as we know it. And today we are joined by Julius, Inge, and Marc. So thank you so much for bringing these stories to life and also sharing them with the rest of the world along with the Changemakers. I would like to say good day, good afternoon, good morning to everyone joining us from your respective countries and different time zones. It's an honor for me to be facilitating today's Global Read session with the incredible authors of Changemakers, 20 stories that change the world. So thank you very much. This book brings together inspiring voices of young people, as Felipe had said in the introduction, who have turned their passion into action, and it also challenges into global movements. So today I will try my best, and unfortunately we have a power shortage in South Africa, so I am keeping my fingers crossed that the universe is going to be graceful and kind to us and everyone can hear me and the connection is perfect. So welcome everyone, and welcome Julius and Inge and Marc. Thank you so much for having this session with us. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll be asking questions, and since there's the three of you, some of the questions will be addressing the three of you, which you can answer, and some of it will be individually, which will be specifically for Marc or Inge or Julius. So thank you. The first question that I have that is for Marc. I would like to find out what inspired you to collect and share these particular 20 stories of young change makers.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, Joy, facilitating us, and thank you to invite us to this Global Read today. Yeah, what inspired us? What could I say after seeing this trailer? I saw it so many times, but it's still touching. And I think that's the essence. We do think, Inge, Julius, and I do think that these inspiring stories of these incredible heroes, these young change makers, should travel around the world because hope is what we need. And what we need is change bottom up. If governments or other institutions can't give us hope, then we should do it. And these young people show that young people can change the world bottom up. And they start in their own community or on their own school and sometimes facilitate a snowball. But that's the reason why that we combined all these stories. And of course, there was a special occasion this year because it was the 20th anniversary of the International Children's Peace Prize.
Thank you. Well, they do inspire us, and I like the fact that you mentioned hope. I mean, with everything that's happening in our climate at the moment, I think the only thing that all of us are clinging on to is that hope. So, watching that trailer and with your words, Mark, I think these young people are re-inspiring all of us to never to lose that hope, to cling on to that hope, and to also be change makers in our own global communities around the world. So thank you for that. The next question that I have is, why are these, it's for all three of you. So why are these stories so remarkable and why are they so important to be told?
Well, the stories are all, hello Joy, nice to see you. The stories are all,
Hi, Inge.
yeah, they are all about young people who become ignited by some, well, some problem there is in their neighborhood, in their city, in their country. You were mentioning the climate. Well, they don't only think about it, but they want to do something about it. And what is so special about it is that they don't have the means, they don't have the money, they have only themselves and a big heart to come into action. And they stand up for children's rights because they think, well, the grown-ups should do this, but they don't. So we do it for ourselves, which is very powerful. And that is a common thing in all the stories of the 20 winners. And it's important, of course, to share this with the whole world to inspire other young people and also adults, of course, not only for them, but to also come in action.
Yes, Julius?
Oh, yeah. No, I wanted to say thank you, Joy, and thank you for it's nice to be here. Now, yeah, as a relatively more younger person, I mean, I would say it's also for me very inspiring to talk to these, well, they're not all children anymore, but to these other young people, because you really start to wonder if they, like Inge said, can do so much, even despite all these adversities, and like they don't have that many means, they can still change so much. Like, shouldn't we all do a bit more? And that's what makes it so hopeful as well, that it is possible that if you just start small and start in your own community, and then the idea might grow and might even become an international movement, that you can achieve so much. So yeah, it's just so inspiring as well to talk to all of these people. That's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, because I think if I may add, we all know, for example, Malala Yousafzai, but now she's world famous. But please know, she just started in her village. When it was forbidden for girls to go to school, she started to protest in her small village, not knowing that it would become a snowball. Or like Greta Thunberg, she started in front of the parliament just with a protest sign, never knowing that it would be so big. So it teaches us that change starts small and bottom up. And if of course, if it becomes a snowball, it's wonderful. But it's important that you start somewhere in your own community and that it starts with small steps.
Yeah, and if I
Absolutely,
may,
absolutely.
there's
ahead,
also the point of selflessness. Like Marc is giving these examples, I was also thinking about Kaylee Mycroft from your country, from South Africa. She has an illness, that's why she can't walk, so she has to use a wheelchair. And when she was very small, she started an action to collect money in order to buy an electric wheelchair for herself. So that was just for her, so she could move more freely. But soon after that, she and her friends thought, well, this is such a success. We have to move on. We have to go on, because there are so many children in our country who have the same problem or different problems and kind of disability, and they are, well, they're not taken for full by the community. So we have to move on. And then she started a whole movement, which is still working as we speak today. She's now around 30, so it's still working. So they start really small with an idea, and then it grows and becomes very big. And that's really powerful.
And they
It
also,
really is.
sorry, and they also just keep going, like even with so many of these stories, for example, adults don't really believe in their initial plans or their dreams to make a change. They say, well, who are you? You are just a young 12-year-old. Who are you to come with these plans? And then they don't believe it. But despite that, they still keep going. And in the end, they get there and they make a big change. And I think that's really impressive, especially for young people to keep going like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Enormous resilience.
And
yeah.
Yes. And as I'm listening to the three of you, what I'm picking up or what I'm hearing is that the common thread within these 20 change makers is action, right? Marc, you mentioned that Malala started in a small village. You mentioned Kelly wanting to work for disabilities. And it actually brings to mind a quote that I love by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Dr. Shirin Ebadi, where she says that it's not just about words and hope, it's about action, right? And I think what you are saying now is that these young people, as though they felt limited, as Julius, you are saying that some of them don't have anything, like, they think that they don't have the full resources or adults don't listen to them because they are children. But the beautiful about the book, the Changemakers book, and the stories within the book is that it reminds all of us that it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Those little steps that you take, they make a ripple around the world and they do make a change. And sometimes we don't see the change when we are doing it, but other people, when they are watching the work that we do, they can see the change. So that's why this book is so important for our society and our community, because these children have given us a gift that we get to carry with us for the rest of our lives. So thank you very much for giving us this gift. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I would like to, instead, in terms of speaking with the common thread and on what stood up across all the different young people, how did you culturally or regionally, the differences and shapes, how did you approach the cultural differences or common threads within your approach of telling the stories?
Yeah, well, as you put it, the common threads are visible in all stories. And that's what we were saying. They have no money, they have no means,
They have no position.
really support. Yeah, but they still do it, and they make this movement bottom up. But in regional and cultural terms, you have big problems and you have small problems, of course. Like a school with 60 children in Africa, which is closing, is even as important as another problem in Japan, where, for example, Rina one of the winners, is fighting against, well, just being heard as a young person. Because in Japanese culture, children don't have a voice, and they have to listen to the elder people who know better. They have to listen politely. And she stood up against it. She said, no, we are young people. We have also something to say about the decisions you are going to make about us. So she started the movement and, well, tried to enthusiast young people also to make contact with political people in order to discuss problems which are important for young people, which was really a breakthrough for Japan, because that's not cultural, is not normal to do so. So in that way, culture plays a part. Also, another example is, for example, India, with the problem of child labor. Well, in Japan, there's no child labor, but in India, there is. So the approach from the one, in this case, Om Prakash, is that he knows this experience from inside out because he was a child slave. So that's why he knows what he's talking about. And that is with all the stories of all the children. They know exactly what they are talking about because they live in this culture. And for us, it's sometimes difficult because, well, you don't know all these problems. So we learned actually a lot about it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, Inge. So I would also like to know that while you are touching on the cultural challenges, how did you three ensure that these young voices are represented authentically in the book, especially when they are sharing personal and sensitive stories?
I think one of the more simpler way to do it was when we were actually writing the text itself. After the interviews, we tried to include a lot of full quotes of the conversations so that you can actually hear and read the stories as much as possible in their own voices, which, yeah, you can't get more authentic than that, I guess. And in the interviews itself, speaking from, like, I work as a journalist, but for a newspaper, and usually when I talk to politicians or researchers, you always are busy with asking very critical questions or things like that. But in these conversations were very different from that. I feel like it felt more like conversations than an interview. You try to mostly listen to their story, and now and then you ask some questions like an interested friend or family member would also do. So you try to make a nice atmosphere in which you just have a nice conversation and give them all the attention and time that you have to tell their story. And then afterwards, like I mentioned, you try to write that down in as authentic as possible with using quotes and sticking to their story.
Yeah, and if I may add, before COVID, we tried to visit a number of winners in their own community. And because if you come at their home in their own community, they feel at ease, but then it also makes yourself very humble, because then you see the problems or the challenges they are confronting. For example, we visited Kes Valdez in the Philippines, and he's a former street child. And he invited us to come to the graveyard where he lived with his family. And when we saw that, we were really touched and even shocked, because then we could understand his story much better, where he came from and why he stood up and why he mobilized other street children to better their situation. So that helped to understand, and talking about authenticity, then you really understand where these children are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I
when we
like
were there, there was the whole family there. So Julius was even younger than he's now. It's about 10 years ago, I think. But I think you still remember it, Julius, or not?
Yeah, no, especially the example you just mentioned with cats, I can still
Mm.
vividly see those images of the graveyard. It made quite a large impression on me. And also
Yeah.
going to India, visiting these very different cultures, especially as when you were very young, it really made large impressions on me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I like that. And as a storyteller myself, I constantly have to remind myself to practice active listening. And
Yeah.
Julius, because it's very hard because when you hear somebody saying something, you also want to, and then you're interrupting their story
Right.
without realizing it, unintentionally. And I really like that, Julius, you mentioned that part of the process was not trying to speak for them, but try to write their words as close as possible to what they are saying and just listening to them. And also, Mark, you mentioned that visiting their communities where they grew up, which is their home, it gave you a better understanding. And I think that's the truest form of authenticity that we could ever think of. And what I would like to know is, I'm a big supporter for collaborations, and so it's so beautiful to see you guys work as a family. So, what is that like?
Well, I think Julius should start.
Okay, and why is that? No, I think it was a very interesting and nice collaboration because I'm not used to working together as a family in a professional sense.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I get along with my parents very well, but it's if it wasn't clear, these are my parents. But because it's just very different to work on a book together. But it's been very interesting to read each other's texts and to help each other editing the stories. And I think because we already knew each other quite well, it was also easier to understand each other and to find a nice, yeah, tone for the stories.
Mm-hmm.
To agree on that quickly. Also because um, I've because it's my family, I've also been involved with kids' rights for a long time. Well, not involved more as in I've known about kids' rights for a long time, and I've been to many of the award ceremonies, and it felt very nice to also contribute now in a way by helping writing these stories. And because of that, I was also already kind of familiar with what we were trying to tell with these stories. But yeah, in some, I found it very nice. I don't know if you have a different experience.
No. Well, I will not try to be diplomatic, but Inge and I discussed kids' rights is, and also the International Children's Peace Prize is all about youth participation. We strongly believe that you should participate. So Inge and I discussed, well, we should walk or talk. If the two of us as adults are doing these interviews and writing this book, I think we have a missing link. And by getting Julius on board, not only as a professional because he's a journalist, but also he has a different lens. Let's be honest. Julius is much younger than we are, and he looks in a different way. And I think that was wonderful to have also here in writing this book, this his his youth perspective.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and it was also nice that, of course, the people we interview are also young. So I think they could relate very easy to Julius because of the age. They are closer, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Less
because
distance. Yeah.
some of them were actually almost my age because
Hmm.
some of them it was a while ago that they got the reward, or they were already a bit older, which was also interesting for me because they have lived such different lives than I have, of course. But yeah, it did make it more easy to relate, I think. For example, when we spoke to Matt from the March for Lives story, he was pretty much my age, uh, which was interesting to collaborate in that way. Um,
Yeah. Plus,
Julius, with the sorry, Marc, go ahead.
no, please go ahead. No, I just wanted to make a joke. If he would talk to me, he's talking to the feeling, talking to Santa Claus. This it was better to talk to Julius.
So we have an interview with Santa Claus today, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, Julius, were there any stories that were particularly emotional for you during the process?
Yeah, well, I think, like I just mentioned, March for Our Lives was actually one of the stories that made quite an impression on me. So, for those that don't know, there was there's a lot of school shootings in the US, and one of the more deadlier ones was the Parkland school shooting in 2018, and some of the survivors, the youth that attended that school, they decided that this was supposed to be the last school shooting because they figured that the gun laws and regulations, they made all of this possible, and they because multiple, like tens, about 20 people died and many others got wounded, so it was a very sad situation, of course. So they wanted to take action to make sure that that was the last school shooting ever at their school. So it was quite, I mean, they were very open to talk about their situation. So I spoke to Matt, which he had already graduated from the school, but he was part of the group that later initiated the March for Lives, and also to X, who was known as Emma Gonzalez before, but they call themselves X now. And it was hard for me to ask them about what their experiences were like that day at the school shooting, because it's a very emotional event. And I wasn't sure how open they would be to talk about it. But to my surprise, they were actually, I mean, of course, they had talked about it many times before already because they got quite famous afterwards. But they were actually very, almost happy to talk about it and making jokes in between, even though it was such a serious topic. And that made quite an impression on me, because what they did is after the shooting, they started tweeting and talking to the press a lot, which gave them a lot of attention. And then they started protesting for stricter gun laws, and decided in the end to organize the March for Our Lives, which was a very large protest in Washington with what is different estimates, but more than 1 million attendees. And also in the end, there were different marches all over the world on the same day. So they really managed to get so much attention and build a whole movement against gun violence and school shootings. So it was very, very extraordinary to talk to these people that were almost my age about this story, and how they were so happy about it, almost talking about it, and how they achieved so much. I don't know if that answers your question, but that was one of the stories that really made a large impression on me.
Yep. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that was a massive, massive impact, I think, in our communities globally. And I think it goes back to Marc's words earlier about hope, right? That even though there was this dark cloud where these young people have just lost their friends, they've lost their community, their sense of safety had been shattered. But at the end of the day, they gave the rest of us hope, because they mobilized themselves and to form what is now we know as one of the greatest marches in the United States, which is March for Our Lives. I mean, even the messaging around that itself, it's like they understand the value of their lives, that it was at stake. So they're marching for their lives, which on its own is very powerful and very touching. So thank you so much, Julius, for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, if I could add one more thing, sorry to interrupt you. I think what was also so nice about talking to some of these initiators themselves is because it was such a historic march, so many articles had already been written about it. So I already had so much information about it, but it was a lot nicer to hear it from the perspective of the young people that actually organized it and were there. So I think that made the story a lot nicer too, because I could have just gathered the facts from the news articles that were already there, of course, and written a story about it. That would have been fine. But talking about authenticity, talking to some of the initiators that were there, it made it a lot more interesting, I think.
No, I agree, and it speaks of your integrity as well, because when you spoke about authenticity, you said that you wanted the people's words, their voices as they were saying it. So you didn't want the other journalists who have covered the stories to be telling the stories of these young people. You wanted to hear it from them as well. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's
But
incredible.
the one thing that was nice about that they got so much press attention. I mean, there's multiple things nice about that, of course, but is that there were also very nice pictures of the march. And I think we could show a few of the images from the book, if that's okay. Because
Yes.
for many of the winners, we used that throughout, of course, not just for the March for Lives, but it just brings the story to life even more, I think. Let me see
Absolutely.
if I can show you this. So this is one of the spreads within the book. And then you can see all these nice press pictures. This is the day of the march.
Capitol Hill. Yeah.
Yeah. But you can also get an idea of what the book looks like with pictures as X Gonzalez. Here you can see all the people that gathered there. So it brings the story to life a lot more. I think this is Matt and X.
Yeah, it's a daily show. Yeah, Trevor.
Exactly. And here at the award ceremony with Mr. Tutu.
Yeah, it's in Cape Town with your grandfather or patron.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the different stories have very nice pictures that also add so much to the story, I think. Very colorful. I don't know if you, Inge and Marc, want to show any particular parts of the book, but just
I
to
like
give
this one. If you go back a little bit, acting for peace is first of all. The quote, acting peace, by Dina Divina. Acting for peace is first of all a matter of heart, engagement, and passion.
Yeah, and this is also a wonderful story of Divina Maloon from Cameroon. And she founded a whole peace network with kids to in a country destroyed by Boko Haram, and which is very courageous of her to found such a peace network to prevent war, to prevent violence. So she received the International Children's Peace Prize from Nobel Peace Laureate Kailash Satyarthi from India, but also a very young and courageous lady.
Yeah, I think that gives an idea.
This is wonderful. Thank you, Julius, for sharing that with us. And I believe we also have a video from the 20th anniversary from the Jubilee that we will be sharing with everyone. Thank you, Philippe.
Welcome to the 2024 award ceremony of the International Children's Peace Prize. The ceremony took place in De Nieuwe Kerk, or the New Church in Amsterdam, famous for hosting Dutch royal events.
We need the change-making courage of young people to lead on hope, not fear, to create, not to destroy, to solve problems and not stagnate, let it go backwards. So to all of you and all of us, if you are in a position of power, share it with young people. If they're shy or outspoken, share your power.
This year marks the 20th anniversary of the International Children's Peace Prize. We are celebrating all our remarkable laureates and this year's incredible finalists.
Ladies and gentlemen, we live in sad and dark times. We are living through the consequences of climate change and extreme poverty. We all come from different backgrounds and countries, but we all strive to make the world a better place. We do so against systems of oppression and injustice, but we keep marching ahead despite the odds. So join us as we create a more just and peaceful world for children around the globe.
And now let's introduce our first finalist, Adi Dayoud.
Adi is an 18-year-old from India, transforming the barren deserts of Rajasthan into lush green landscapes in an effort to address water scarcity.
This work is my purpose. This is my responsibility, and I don't think I'll ever stop.
Making a real difference for our world in the area of youth mental health, Sarah Shelke.
Sarah is a 16-year-old girl from the United States who is on a mission to solve the mental health crisis for young people.
I am incredibly honored to be recognized as a finalist for the International Children's Peace Prize. Over the past few years, suicide rates and mental health issues among teens have risen drastically. It is up to our next generation of young changemakers to stand up for the issues that we see happening and not just be bystanders, because it should not be grief that initiates change, but love. Thank you.
We need their out-of-the-box thinking. This is the kind of thinking that children can bring. We need their belief that things can be better and that nothing is impossible.
Welcome and thank you for coming to celebrate the 20th International Children's Peace Prize together. And this inspiring stories, this impressive history is written down now. So KidsRights is really very proud to present Changemakers. 20 stories that changed the world. Please, let's present this book. Well, they're already curious to the Children's Peace Prize winners. It's your stories after all, it's yours. So it is change bottom up. It is the choice and the hope for change. And we are all invited to join. Africa,
Are you ready? Are you ready? I can sit. Okay. After thoughtful consideration and discussion, the expert committee has decided to award the International Children's Peace Prize 2024 to Nela Ibrahimi from Afghanistan. Woo!
Neela is a 17-year-old Afghanistan native residing in Canada, courageously fighting for the rights of girls and women in her home country.
The new discriminatory laws in Afghanistan ban girls and women from speaking, singing, and hearing in public. For her remarkable initiatives and fearless advocacy efforts to fight for the rights of millions of girls on behalf of the expert committee, I congratulate you, Nela Ibrahimi, for winning the International Children's Peace Prize 2024.
Nela, if you would come forward with Tawakal, we are going to have each one of these laureates pass it forward from one person, the earliest winner, on to the next, symbolizing the passing of not only this statuette, the Nkosi, but the meaning of what it is to be a part of this prestigious family and the commitment to changing the world.
Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I am deeply honored to stand on this stage receiving the 2024 International Children's Peace Prize. This award represents the bravery of all Afghan women, both in Afghanistan and beyond, who have shown time and again that no restriction, no oppression, and no hardship can silence them. The world can be a scary place, but don't let these cruelties fade your light. Your light can brighten the world, or at least shine on a little corner and make a change. When Afghanistan's Ministry of Education banned girls from singing, I protested and found my voice in music. 2 weeks later, the ban was lifted.
برو بخیر با مکتب درس بخون دختر جان به تو نیاز دارم افغانستان دختر جان برو بخیر با مکتب درس بخون دختر دم 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 با درس نو میشه زندگانی رنگ رنگ برو بخیر با مکتب برو بخیر با مکتب They told you to be silent.
What an incredible, incredible video. A round of applause for that. And just, I'm getting goosebumps just watching the segment where they passing down the trophy. And I mean, for me, it just represents just peace and compassion in action, just passing down the torch to each other. And I think I'm just so inspired, and to see young children around the world being able to watch this moment also and getting inspired to take action and make change and be change makers themselves. So thank you for sharing that, Julius, Inge, and Marc. Julius, I believe you interviewed Nila, the 20th recipient of ICCP. What was, in brief, can you tell us what was her story and what kind of impression did she make on you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's hard. It's a very beautiful story to keep it brief, but I'll try. Like she mentioned in the video, when she was only 13 years old, growing up in Kabul in Afghanistan, the Minister of Education decided to ban schoolgirls from singing in Afghanistan. I think all schoolgirls older than 12 years. And she decided to protest. This was before the Taliban took power in Afghanistan, and she decided to protest against this new ban by recording a song, which she also performed in a different way at the ceremony this year. But in her song, she's basically protesting this decision and singing for freedom to use her voice and for girls to go to school. And that's also what she says in this message in this video. And then they posted it on social media, and it went absolutely viral and started like a movement of many girls and women also showing their voice in a video and protesting against these kind of restricting laws that were being put on there in Afghanistan. And like she said, after 2 weeks, the whole movement had an effect because the ban was lifted again. So that's how our story started. But then, sadly, the same year that the Taliban regained power in Afghanistan, and she had to flee. And she fled to Pakistan first, and then to Canada with her family. But then there, she realized again that she could use her voice to protest and also to tell stories of other girls and women in Afghanistan that are whose rights are being restricted again more and more. But she started to speak at different conferences. One of them was a UN conference, and she realized that by telling her story and by speaking for other girls, she could make change. And then she decided that it shouldn't just be her voice, but also all the voices of other women and girls in Afghanistan that should be heard. So she started a platform called Her Story, where she interviews these women and girls that still live in Afghanistan in an empowering way, as in they try to tell their stories not as from the role of a victim, but by telling what they are still able to do and talking about their daily lives. So in a way, she wants to be or she doesn't want to be, but she tries to be the voice of girls and women in Afghanistan because they themselves can't speak up well. And that's also what made a large impression on me interviewing her, that it seems like a very big burden to carry, but she's very serious about feeling like it's her job to do this, which I think is very inspiring. And what also impressed me a lot is that she is now 17 or maybe 18 years old, but she seemed like such a wise and considerate individual to talk to for her age. When asking questions, she took a lot of time to carefully consider what she would answer. And for me, it was just very inspiring. I think she's one of the wisest teenagers I've ever met.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Julius, for sharing that. Thank you so much. Marc, I would like to ask you, how has the International Children's Peace Prize evolved since its inception in 2005? And what role do you see it playing in global youth activism today, especially since the digital age has changed the way young people organize and create change?
Yeah. First of all, and that was never the objective, but it became the world's most important youth prize over the years. But what is important, that the International Children's Peace Prize is not only a sign of recognition for these young change makers, but gives them an enormous platform to give their message to the world. For example, when Nila won the International Children's Peace Prize, a London communication agency calculated that 3.8 billion people heard her message around the world through all kind of media. And that makes that her issue came high on the agenda. And the same applies to other Children's Peace Prize winners, that they get a huge platform to message their cause. And it also is helping their cause. And I think especially now, if I may say, I think the International Children's Peace Prize is quite important, because we did a survey and a global trend analysis, and you see that young people are missing role models because, well, I think the current leaders around the world are not especially role models nowadays, and they see each other. Young people see Nila, Malala, Greta, Keita. Well, you name all of them. They see them as role models, as inspiring models, and that's really important for youth activism.
Yep. Representation. I love that. It matters.
But there are young
Thank
moral
you.
leaders.
Thank you.
There's a lack of
Yes.
moral leadership, and there are young moral leaders.
Yes. And one thing I also love about the Changemakers book is that you have you have the digital version available for free or as a gift in Peace Prize countries. Why was it so important to offer a digital version of the book as a gift in Peace Prize countries? And what has the response been?
Yeah, thank you. The mission of the book is to inspire as many young people as possible. And many young people can't afford such a book. So we started a campaign, get your copy for free if you're under 25. And since 7 weeks, more than 1 million copies were downloaded around the world, which is immense. And also the United Nations decided to spread it for free along our channels to young people, because it's important that this message is traveling.
So how can other countries be able to get the book if they want a physical copy? I think I saw somebody asking also, how are they able to? Can Inge or Julius or Marc?
Yeah. For adults, a physical copy you can get through Amazon or to bol.com or in the Netherlands in the bookshops, but Amazon. And for young people, they can go to the website of KidsRights and you can download a copy for free. And that's why we're also here today, is that we like to spread the word, because we think we can reach out to many more million young people around the world. So the more distribution we have for free copies, the better.
And looking ahead, what's next for KidsRights and your work as storytellers and advocates for youth empowerment?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. KidsRights, you saw now these iconic change makers have featured in this book. And that's very hopeful. There are many young people around the world, whether they live in Peru, in Ghana, or in Germany who are very worried about the direction the world is going. They're worried about climate change. They're worried about the raging wars. They're worried about their chances to get access to education, to get access to a job. They're worried about inequalities. And what we see now, and that's really a new wave of emancipation, that a lot of young people are standing up and try to make a change in their own community. And we facilitate that now with chapters on the ground. We call it State of Use. It was launched in 2019 at the United Nations in New York, and the day before at the World Summit of Peace, Nobel Peace Laureates in Merida in Mexico. And only in 6 years, we have now chapters in 68 countries, more than 400 chapters, and it's growing rapidly. And we are helping these young people by funding their little projects, that by training them. And we strongly believe in this change bottom up. So we can talk about a movement. It's now at this moment one of the fastest growing youth movements in the world. And that's the next step in youth empowerment, to facilitate them and to bring a better future for this world.
Thank you, Marc. As we are coming to close, I would like to ask the three of you, what message do you hope every reader, young or old, carries forward from Changemakers? And also, how can each of us become part of this ripple effect these young people have started?
Inge.
You can go, Julius or Inge.
Yeah. There are a lot of great messages, but what comes to mind now is the slogan of Sadat, which is, there is a superhero who lives in all of us. So that's a question to come into action. There's a superhero in all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like your grandfather, Desmond Tutu, our patron, our late patron, said, all these little bits of good will overwhelm the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think also it's been mentioned, be the change you want to see. So just start acting and start making a change. I think that's what speaks from all the stories. And
also one of the recipients of ICCP, who is a personal hero of mine, Nkosi Johnson, he says, do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. So with that being said, I think with everything that is going on around our world, I would love to leave everyone with the words of this incredible book from all of these 20 young people, and to each and every one of us from all over the world, to carry these words with us, and how they still ringing the bells of actions these young people are, and how they are ringing bells of children's rights and their well-beings. And the most important one, I think, community service, because we are all nothing without each other. So thank you very much, Julius, Inge, and Marc, for sharing these beautiful stories and making all these 20 Changemakers stories come to life, that it's available for everyone to be able to be part of. So thank you. And I think, thank you so much. Thank you. And I think Philippe has a couple of words for us also before we close the session for tonight.
Yes.
And thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, all three of you, and Joy for your facilitating. That was amazing, and what an empowering session to have, and to see the power of youth and the incredible work that you are doing to empowering that voice that is so necessary in all social change. I wanted to take a very quick moment to let people know about the different things that are happening with the Charter for Compassion. So if you are looking for creating a compassionate community, we have 2 more webinars of building compassionate communities. One of them is today at 1 p.m. Pacific time, so in about 4 hours from now, or 3 hours from now. And session 4 will be next day at 4 p.m. Pacific time. You can check that on our website. We have a weekly webinar of Harmony of Humanity that is with our Executive Director, Marilyn Turkovich, and that happens every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Our next global read is at the end of the month with Krista Tippett and her book, Becoming Wise, An Inquiry to the Mystery and Art of Living. And there's going to be an exciting global read just like this one. And it's going to be moderated by Parker Palmer on Wednesday, April 23rd at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And last but not least, we have other conversations geographically based for people to participate in their own different communities and how they can connect with the charter and the different initiatives that are happening in their areas and around the world, and how can we be of support for that. All of that information, you can look it up on our website. And last but not least, we have our Compassionate Action Conference that is happening on May 14th and 15th. If you are interested in participating as a presenter, a speaker, or providing something to the conference, the deadline to propose an idea is April 15th. That is coming up. So you can also look at that on our event calendar on our website. And last but not least, we have our Charter Sangha every last Saturday of the month. In this case, Saturday, May 31st. There's another one, Saturday, April 20-something for this month. And we will be, that's a time for meditation, sharing, and a space for people to feel safe and recollect thoughts and connect with others as well. We wanted to thank you once again, all of you, for participating on this webinar, for everybody that is watching, and for people that are watching the recording as well. Thank you so much for this. The work that you're doing is changing the world, and we cannot be more excited and happy to be able to provide this platform to share your work and the impacts that are creating in the world. So thank you so much again, and we'll be seeing you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.